color guard.
Sweltering summer sessions through the month of August. Teams are finally suited up for competitive games. And look at that, the national anthem is complete as well. We're finally ready for the kickoff of the 2015 high school football season. And for the fifth season, the Ventura County Star brings you unrivaled local coverage with the VCSPreps Game of the Week. My name is Danny Page, back for the fifth year with the Deuce Dairy Eads. Joining us tonight for the first time out will be Kent Brown. We'll have a rotating third member of the broadcast team throughout the season as the Oxnard Yellow Jackets host the Westlake Warriors. And we were, I won't say arguing or bickering, we were disagreeing a little bit, Derry, before we came on air tonight about it's just not a matchup that a year ago we would have looked at and said, sure, that's where we'll be opening the season, Oxnard-Westlake, with Tony Henney leading Westlake and John Mack leading Oxnard. It's an unorthodox matchup if you look at it from maybe how we would have seen things 12 months ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just changed completely. I mean, who would? I don't know whether this has ever happened where we've had two successful head coaches leave Ventura County, have success elsewhere, and then come back to Ventura County. It's remarkable. You know, Tony Henney won a CF title at Trabuco Hills after winning two straight at Nordhoff, and John Mack had great success at St. Bonaventure and success at Ventura College before going to Crespi, and then coming back to the area. So it's really different.
Yeah, what an interesting dynamic, right, Kent, as you look at these two head coaches who have been dominant, albeit in a little bit of different eras in Ventura County high school football. But now they probably, while they wouldn't communicate it, they both surely feel like they have a lot to prove tonight with their new teams in these matchups.
Anytime you take over a new program.
We'll see 50-50 tonight, but they put pressure on a revamped Oxnard offense and see what they can do.
That's a great point, really, and I think that if you can score early, you already force Oxnard to have to throw the football more and more.
Yeah, and then, of course, Pagano, you look at it last year, it was mainly running game, about, right around 10, maybe 12 passes a game. Now you're looking at it, what's the over-under? Is it 20 passes tonight? Is it 30? Is it more than that? We'll have to see. And if you're Westlake, you provide points early. You really put the pressure on the senior quarterback of Oxnard, and you have to test him out to see just how good of a passer he really is.
The Yellow Jackets in cardinal and gold, brand new uniforms. There's a different feel around here, Deuce, isn't there? One thing I think that's interesting is that school still hasn't started in the Oxnard Union High School District. Classes begin on Tuesday, so I think you'll have a smaller student population in the stand.
A lot of his name to mention tonight, and then Chase Jasmine's a guy they feel comfortable toting the rock with, getting productive 6, 7, 8 yards, and then moving the chains. And really, as we said, this goes to which offense can shine early and put the pressure on the opposition.
One big change for Westlake, highly publicized. Grant Bunker, the starting quarterback for the Warriors, although he did throw 5 touchdown passes last season, all in one game against Paraclete. And Oxnard makes a statement defensively on the opening carry, doesn't really go for anything.
Well, this is the kind of the thing that, Warren Ladine wrote earlier.
From 7 yards out.
You would think so.
Kick is good, and it's 7-0. Pearson Crawford. And I'll tell you what, based on where that ball ended up, it had quite a hook on it. It looked like it ended up about 20 yards wide of the post as it landed ultimately. But the ball did sneak through the uprights, and 43 seconds in, Westlake leads 7-0. It happened fast. Why was Oxnard able to really limit Jasmine on the opening play, half a yard, something like that, and then boom, next thing you know, 78 yards later?
Well, one thing you have against an aggressive team, boy, if you just pick that spot where they're not attacking, and once it gets past that seam, there's nobody to really get them.
Yeah, on the first play, they stuffed the rush right up the gut. That A-gap was stopped. And the second play, he bounces it outside. Like I said, a good seal block. The receiver got down and blocked, and then it was off to the races, and that's what you want with Jasmine. Get his speed on the outside and make one of the defensive backs have to make a tackle downfield.
That's what Tony Henney wants, is Alex Sardi, the junior. And Sardi with a decent kick return, and that's where the Oxnard Yellow Jackets will start from. Just closing out, thoughts on the run by Chase Jasmine. I talked to Coach Mack on the field how important it can be for a team, for your young team, to see an opponent with real team speed in the opening game and what that does for your mindset taking on other opponents throughout the year. He said it was really a welcoming factor to see a fast team in the opening game. Certainly not on that second play. Run from Jasmine. Here's Dalton Pagano. He'll start with 5 wide. Yellow Jackets will throw on the opening play, complete for a first down up to the 40-yard line. Dylan Duarte with the catch.
And that was a good start. That's what you want with Dalton Pagano. Get a player, quick pass, easy, move the chains. And now a little bit of confidence. You can calm down because a lot of times that first pass, there's some nerves. That was an easy, high percentage completion.
Blake Kilgore. And, Derry, that's what you were talking about when we were prepping for the game here a little bit earlier, wasn't it? These easy passes for Dalton Pagano to build some confidence.
Yeah, get into a good rhythm.
And here's another one, just tossed off to the left side to Raymond Caldera. And Caldera gets 5 yards. That's quite a tackle from one of the best defensive players in Ventura County, the cornerback Daniel Fox, 5'10", 175 pounds. Great tackle on Caldera.
Yeah, good open space tackle. He misses that. That's another first down. He's probably out past midfield into plus territory. And we saw the opening or the second rush. Oxnard unable to make an open field tackle down the sideline. This time, great open field on the outside. And your defensive backs, if there's quick passes to the edges, you better make those tackles.
Some pretty good downfield blocking by the Oxnard receivers.
Caldera had more than 2,300 yards last year, and his first carry of this season goes for 1 yard. Again, I'm going to have these weird sensations throughout the game. Where
if you have these weird sensations,
keep them to myself, right?
Seats with kid.
These strange sensations where Oxnard's throwing on first down on consecutive seats.
Maybe 25 a game, and have the quarterback throw, maybe 15 to 20. And I think I'm still anxious to see Max Vasquez, who's a pretty good running back, get some carries too.
Yeah, Max Vasquez had 449 yards and 75 carries a year ago. 3rd down and 2. Big 3rd down for Oxnard. They'll go with Caldera again. They call number 36, and he picks up the first down. Decent penetration up front for Westlake defensively, but Oxnard is making a solid push against the Warriors, Kent, and another first down.
Yeah, that time you only needed 2. It was evident. They pretty much said, we need to get the first down. Block, even if you come in and you give us 3, we'll take it. We want to get the first down, move the chains. And that's what you want. A guy like Caldera, you can trust him. You can say, hey, you're not going to get 10, 11 every.
You bring in a new coach, you lost a lot of talent, so it's kind of like you having to redo the program.
First down and 10 here in Oxnard. Here's Caldera trying to spread it left side. Westlake can't chop him down initially, and he gets down to the 8-yard line.
That's a heck of a gain. That time, it looked like he stretched it out too far, was probably going to gain 1 or 2. And that's at least the 3rd time. He's lowered his shoulder and picked up 4 or 5 yards after first contact. And that's something going forward in this game. If you can start wearing a defense down and you can lower your shoulder and get these type of gains on your first possession, 3rd quarter, 4th quarter, instead of 4 or 5 yards, those are going to go 15, 20, or maybe you'll break it and go all the way.
I think one of the things you recognize about Caldera is he doesn't necessarily have the speed to make big gains on the edge, but a run like that just really says a lot for the young man's future. Here's Pagano to throw, and he's hit from behind. There's that man again, Brandon Shook with the sack, and Shook has already been an absolute beast on this opening drive, which, by the way, drive 5+ minutes for Oxnard. 3rd down and 8.
Saved them on this possession.
They're going to get the ball to Theo Howard here.
Here's Booker, Oxnard playbook. The fact remains that this is just his 2nd start of his career.
Yeah, and both quarterbacks look sharp so far.
Screen pass to Jasmine, 45-40, picking his way through traffic. A first down for Jasmine down to the 32.
Great play. Once again, high percentage. You drop it off to one of your playmakers, and you hope that he can make a few guys miss. This has been a very effective possession so far for Westlake, whether it's been quick passes, the running game. They have a really good balance going, and you have to like that as a coach because now you're not afraid to draw up a run on first down or a simple pass.
They just like to work so quickly under Henny, too, don't
Theo
they?
Howard.
There's Theo Howard's first action. There's a penalty flag down at 8-9 yards from the line of scrimmage. Potentially defensive holding downfield. I didn't really catch anything, but the flag's in a bit of an awkward position.
Yeah, it's down there on the far side of the field as the white hat discusses it. We're going to get the call right now.
Ineligible man downfield against Westlake. Back him up 5 yards.
One of those big boys took off a bit early, crossed the line, and that's going to hurt them because instead of being second and short, now you're backed up 1st and 15. But, Derry, so far I think what I really like from Grant Bunker is he's not really forcing anything. You've seen him on the sideline. He didn't take off. He took the 1 or 2 yard gain, lived to fight another down. I think that's what you want out of this quarterback in these situations, right?
Sure.
Just easing him along.
That was just kind of a little dump pass. That was almost kind of like a shot put. He just kind of got over the Oxnard defenders and put it in the hands of Theo Howard.
By any means necessary.
That's a good guy to get the ball in his hands.
Sure.
Right?
Well, he's going to be bigger than anybody that Oxnard could put on him.
1st down and 15 now, as we mentioned. Howard not on the field for this play.
Oh.
And it's a bad snap, gets away. Jasmine covers it at the 48-yard line. So an 8-yard gain for Westlake, negated by a penalty, and then they lose
15
another
loss.
15.
And now they're in their own territory at the 48. They need to get all the way up to the 22-yard line. So they're facing 2nd and very, very long.
Second down, and the PA announcer said 20. I think it's 30. 2nd down and 30. And here's a handoff to Jasmine. He can pick up 30 in a blink of an eye. And it's about 10 of it back, 3rd and 20 coming up.
Yeah, that's a pretty good game there. You get in some sort of manageable position. Now, at least worst case, you should be able to punt and make it deep. But with a guy like Jasmine in the backfield, you wouldn't feel terrible handing it off to him again and seeing if he can eke even closer to the 1st down marker.
Howard is not on the field again, by the way. Just thought I'd point that out. As Henny sends in the plays. Had a great chat with Coach Henny yesterday. Get to that in a minute on 3rd and 22. Bunker dropping back. Pressure complete. Up to the original 1st down and continuing right toward the sticks. And I think that's a 1st down, isn't it, Kent?
Yeah, he has it by about a yard, and a great effort on that play. That time, it was simple. Grant Bunker needed to get it. He found another Grant Barclay, and he just used his speed at that point, rushed through, and once, the same way we saw Caldera on the other side, lower his shoulder. He knew where the 1st down marker was. He needed 21, got 22.
David Garcia made initial contact and ultimately was there to bring him down, but just couldn't do so this side of the 1st down marker.
And that's so deflating for a defense, to have a team in a 2nd and 30 and then allow a 1st down.
Timeout on the field. Westlake, that is their 2nd timeout, actually. So with 2:48 to go in this opening quarter, it is a 7-3 lead for the Westlake Warriors. Gentlemen, your thoughts so far on what we've seen?
I like the fact that both quarterbacks have not made a big mistake. They've both been sharp. It's been a lot of effective quick passes, high percentage. But we know the running backs. We know what they can do. This is a game which quarterback steps up and makes more plays. And both coaching staffs have given them good opportunities. We have yet to see either one force a pass. So overall, that's been my big takeaway so far. I like the way both Pagano and Bunker have looked.
You know, I really like the incompletion by Pagano down here. He threw it right in the dirt where nobody can intercept it. Didn't try to force it in there.
And they did ultimately get on the board. Here's a toss to Jasmine, left side. A couple blockers in front, but Oxnard seems to have managed that somewhat well. Still a 4-yard gain as Jasmine remains inbounds. And we now have just over 2.5 minutes to play in the opening quarter. Another positive game from Jasmine.
Yeah, it was a stretch play. That time Oxnard seeked it out well. The linebackers' run fit was effective, and there was really nowhere for Jasmine to go. Even with that said, though, if he gets 4 yards every play, they're going to be in good position. So even though it wasn't great, it was still an effective 4-yard gain.
They're certainly mixing up very well.
David Sissy, the motion man, the H-back position for Westlake, now moves back onto the line. Toss left side to Jasmine. Gets to the original line of scrimmage and just turns the corner for another Westlake Warrior first down. Again, I just want to point out that Theo Howard hasn't been in on this entire drive. And actually, I can see Theo Howard now. If you take a look at the 30-yard line, he is sitting on the trainer's bench with his helmet off.
Yeah, I think it was the play where they had the illegal man downfield. He was in right before that, and there was a bunch of players on the far side. It's hard to say really what happened, but obviously he has not been back since.
Inside give to Jasmine, and Jasmine gets a
Down
few
about
yards.
the 6-yard line.
Yeah, about 4 or 5.
Winding down this opening quarter, and when we hit our break between the two periods of play, we'll update you on everything else going on the VCSPreps Game of the Week. You can, of course, follow the VCSPreps Twitter account as well. 2nd down and 6. Pitch to the left side. Jasmine looking to pick up a block on the edge. He does, and he picks up 6 more points. His second score of the night. And Westlake leads 13-3.
They like running to that left side. There's no doubt about it. That's been where their bread has been buttered all night. And if you have effective linemen and you have a running back like Chase Jasmine, his vision's very effective there. We've seen it a couple times. He waits about a second, waits till a hole forms, and then hits it hard. He only needed 6 there, and that's what he got.
Well, it looks like they're more running wide instead of like off tackle, using his speed and the blocking of his receivers.
Well, that certainly will work, in situations against some of the teams that Westlake will face. But those strategies, running because you're the faster team, running on the edge, that doesn't work in the Pac-5 postseason. I think you have to adjust when you get to that level.
But on the other hand, it's game 1, and so you'll have time to figure out your entire running game. But so far, though, you do what works for you, and it's pretty evident that you look at what the defense offers, and until Oxnard can figure out that stretch play, keep doing it. As I said earlier, even when he picks up 4, that doesn't look like a great gain, but you keep 4 or 5 yards a time, you're going to be marching down and putting up a lot of points. So once again, both teams, but specifically Westlake so far, 2 possessions, 2 scores. It's tough to argue with the productivity, and feeding Chase Jasmine the ball has been the smart decision.
You really haven't had to throw the ball that. Derry, can you grab the number of Deuce does such a great job, the veteran newsman he is,
They've only thrown
keeping
4 times.
statistics.
They've only thrown
How
4
many carries does Jasmine have, though? Because wasn't that something that we were discussing?
I've got him
as
6
well?
carries.
It's only 6, okay. I mean, his average last year was, he'd have 12, 14, 18, so on and so forth. As Oxnard will return this from the 9-yard line up to the 20, and still going 35, 38-yard line. Sloppy tackling from Westlake, it must be said. On the return, Kaiser Weiss, and solid starting field position for the Yellow Jackets from the 39.
Special teams has been something that John Mack has really been good at since he was at St. Bonaventure. I mean, he was a guy who wanted to have an offensive team, a defensive team, and a special teams, separate guys, where they were all fresh.
Caldera stacked up right at the line of scrimmage. Brandon Hall, who made that error in judgment earlier with the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty.
Well, that time his judgment was correct. He just beat the guard, dominated him, and got in the backfield. And there was nowhere for Caldera to go. He was hit the second the ball was handed off to him. Great defensive play by Hall.
This could be the final play of the opening quarter. It's 14-3 Westlake, second down and 12. Handoff to Caldera, and Caldera with a nice gain up to the 46-yard line, a very manageable third down and 3. And as John Mack looks to his right to check the clock, I think he may let the quarter run out and call a play in between periods. Lineman sprinted off the field with an injury on the near side. That was Noah Gutierrez.
Yeah, and into the game now replacing him, Cesar Salas came in for the first time tonight.
And that will end the first period of play. Tony Henney's Westlake Warriors lead John Mack's Jackets 14-3, although both teams have scored on their 3 possessions. And Oxnard will look to move the ball into Westlake territory. We'll take a short break, get back to you with scores around the county on the VCSPreps Game of the Week. Back live on the VCSPreps Game of the Week. My name is Danny Page. With me, the Deuce, Derry Eads, and Kent Brown. How do you like this, gentlemen? The Calabasas Coyotes and Canyon, which Canyon was, in some CIF semifinals over the years. 21-0 Calabasas has scored on their first 3 possessions. They will certainly make a run at a league title, a section title, maybe even more this season. On third down, Caldera loses, 4 yards. Great penetration from Westlake.
It looked like he gained 3.
No, they changed sides at the end of the quarter.
Yeah, rotated the other way. Great defensive play there. And that's what you want. When you're in third and medium, you get the stuff. And now you're up 14-3. You've been able to do very well on offense for Westlake. You can really start to put the pressure on Oxnard if you get points on this possession.
And it hasn't been terribly challenging for them at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the first possession, clearly not. Last possession, a bit more work, but nonetheless, they've been very good at not getting that negative play outside of the bad snap, which was an unforced error. Oxnard's defense hasn't done a lot to stymie them at all.
Now, remember, Dalton Pagano is the punter, so that is always an option for Oxnard. Delay a game against the Jackets. Back to receive the kick is Theo Howard.
It's good to see him back there. Hopefully it was just something precautionary, making sure he's okay. And I guess for Westlake's sake, it's nice to know you can have your top receiving weapon come out and still mount a touchdown.
Dos Pueblos up on
And
Pacifica,
Pagano with the
14-0.
fake. Cuts back up to the 43. He'll come up short, though. You have to like what you saw from Coach Mack going for the fake, but I think ultimately that delay of game penalty is really what doomed them.
Yeah, he thought he had something on the outside, and he took off, was a bit hesitant, did that rugby-style punt where it gives you the access of taking off while you're already moving, but a good play on the edge by the Westlake defense, and now you're up 14-3. You get the ball in plus territory. I'm not saying for sure that they're going to air it out on first down, but if you're going to, this might be the time to do it when you have that quick change of possession. Try to hit the home run here, especially with Howard on the short side, one-on-one.
Bunker operating from the I formation, which is always suspicious. Play fake, looking for Howard. Great pressure from Oxnard. Big-time sack from Donovan Watts. Howard had broken free on the near side, but Watts with the sack to prevent a touchdown.
Yeah, they were going to do what I said they might try, but that time the defense stepped up. And as I said, they weren't getting negative plays. That was really the first significant loss that Westlake's had where they weren't doing it themselves. Great play, And that's what you need to do. When you get in the backfield and you're a guy like Watts, hit the quarterback, knock him down to the ground, and now get them in 2nd and 20.
Howard will again be to the near side. I found it suspicious that Westlake lined up in the I formation. I feel like I haven't seen that in years either. Here's Bunker to throw, pressured again.
Boy,
but now he can
to
run.
be tackled.
Gets beyond midfield and picks up about the 8 that they lost. So
yeah, it's
in
a
the
good
stat
game.
book, it's a zero-sum game for Bunker, and 3rd down and 10 on the way.
Yeah, very good game there. Again, much like what you said earlier, Derry, not forcing passes. That time, nobody was open. You take off, you get all the lost yardage, and set yourself up for 3rd and 10.
Had a couple technical problems getting going as Bunker tries to get this offense going, and he completes it to Howard. Theo Howard cuts back and picks up the 1st down just barely, but a nice play from Bunker to complete that pass and move the sticks.
Yeah, he's shown his effectiveness not only with his arm, but with his very good vision. On that play, Howard sort of came across, was waiting for it. A lot of quarterbacks might stay with the side of the field they're on and strictly go there. He looked back, found him. Howard made the shoestring tackle, got the 11 yards.
Bunker will run this time, and he picks up a 1st down and more. Bunker steps out of bounds inside the 20-yard line. Westlake in business again, leading 14-3 in this Week 0 game of the week. He actually did step out at the 23. Westlake's already ready to run another play. Week 0 game of the week, we had some technical problems when we first came on air, but we're ready to roll, guys. This is a beautiful start to the season on one of the hottest days of the year. It's nice and cool here in Oxnard now. Hand off to Jasmine, penalty flag down. 2 of them, in fact.
Yeah, and they were thrown right in where you would think it would be holding.
And that's what you mentioned, Derry. They try to run inside, they're getting nothing, but when they bounce it to the outside, Jasmine has been hugely effective.
Striped shirts are getting ready to figure it all out, but Westlake's already backed up.
Penalty, yeah.
Yeah, Westlake's backed up. They pretty much know it's coming.
Ooh, chop block.
Even worse.
That's a 15-yard penalty.
Now would kind of be the time, though, if you're Oxnard. Step up, make a defensive play, maybe a turnover, another negative play, because you've already gotten the sack. They now commit the chop block, knocks them back 15. You can't keep letting an offense. Last possession, 2nd and 30, they ultimately score. Then they were 1st and 20, they get a 1st down. Now they're 1st and 25. You have to find a way to get the team off the field when they're facing those down and distances.
Got to take some chances. Here's an inside handoff to Jasmine, and Jasmine still on his feet. Cuts to the middle of the field, and Jasmine picks up a good 20 yards. 2nd down and 5 on the way. They got it all back, and this time running the ball generally up the middle.
Yep.
And that was a nice one cut. Finally, we've seen him on stretch plays be able to attack the outside of this defense. It's really the first time, Danny, he's gone up the middle, made a guy miss, and picked up yardage in between the hashes.
He's just really strong.
And another penalty against Westlake. The fouls keep adding up. That's one thing that John Mack has to look at in terms of his Oxnard team as well. They've been relatively penalty-free.
Yeah,
there was that delay of game penalty on the punt.
The first quarter, not that sloppy. This possession, we've finally seen a few of the jitters or the few of the opening week sloppiness come about. But, again, every time they face 2nd and long, 3rd and long, they've still been able to convert.
8 minutes and 5 seconds left. Bunker drops. Bunker sacked. Nice rush from behind. Daniel Vasio Pena ultimately bringing Bunker down. 3rd down and 14. And for me, this is a huge play for Oxnard.
Yeah, if you're the Yellow Jackets, now's the time you get them off the field. 3rd and more than 15 yards. And, of course, if they pick up a 12 here, they're going to go for it on 4th and 5. But make another sack, put them in a position where they have to either punt or go for 4th and long.
3rd and 17, and that's incomplete. What do you do here? Do you attempt the field goal? Remember, you're coming off Alex Ball and Kevin Robledo.
I would say go for the field goal.
46-yard attempt, though, if they go for it. That's asking a lot.
Well,
their last 2 kickers were legendary. I mean, some of the best in the history of the state of California at the high school level.
give this guy a shot, see what he can
chance.
do.
The one thing, though, that worth noting, especially here live, you can see very well, is the middle of this field is pretty chewed up. It's not going to be easy anywhere between the hashes for these kickers to make stuff. There's a lot of mud, a lot of dirt, not necessarily the easiest condition to get a kickoff on.
Just wait till November. These fields are a nightmare. Here's Pearson Crawford. It has the distance, and it's no good. It was off wide to the right. So Oxnard holds. The Yellow Jackets trail 14-3, but they have the football back with 7:20 remaining.
I still like to call, give this guy a chance to do something in a situation where you're already leading 14-3 and you're pretty much in pretty good control of the game. Give him a shot.
And it was, you can see he had the distance. So in reality, yeah, if he connects, why not go for it? But yeah, I initially thought field conditions, maybe your offense has been so effective, you try to go. But if he can kick 45 plus, which it looks like pretty easily Pearson can, then I think the rest of the game you have a weapon to go for it.
Rest of the season for the senior kicker. Pagano in the shotgun on first down will sprint to the right side. Throws a little near side pass, and it's dropped incomplete. Intended for number 29.
And you can see what they're doing with Pagano. They're getting him outside the pocket, letting him make the same plays that I think a lot of running quarterbacks or quarterbacks that can move will do, where if you can pick up 3 or 4 with your feet, do it, and then if you can fire one downfield, you go for it. That time, it was in his receiver's hands, and it was dropped. That's not a bad look on first down. You just need to be able to haul that in and pick up the 7 yards.
4 wide this time for Pagano. It's a decent throw. He'll hand off to Caldera. And Caldera, pretty much his average gain throughout the night, about 4 yards. 3rd and 6 coming. Let's get you some of these scores. Moore Park leads Quartz Hill 12-0 after 1. Ventura on top of Thousand Oaks 7-6 in the first quarter. Cole Clayman throws a touchdown pass for Notre Dame, and they lead Oaks Christian 14-7 with 11:16 to go in the second quarter. Rio Mesa on top of Camarillo in that great rivalry, 10-6 in the opening period of play. Obviously, Camarillo no longer in the Pacific View League, so that rivalry has migrated to week 0. It's a fumble, and it's recovered by Westlake. A fumbled snap and outstanding field position for the Warriors on the 25-yard line. Pagano just couldn't handle it.
Yeah, that time it's recovered by Cameron Trimble, the linebacker that comes up. Pagano could not handle it off his feet or maybe even off his shin, bounced right to the Westlake defender. And so from one number 7, the quarterback for Oxnard, to the other number 7, the linebacker for Westlake, Cameron Trimble picks it up. And just as they were starting to build something, they get their first stop, they give it right back to Westlake in great territory right outside the red zone.
Boy, I tell you what, this is a lot of pressure on the Oxnard defense, a lot of plays on their side of the field.
And here's Jasmine straight through the middle and straight down to the 12-yard line for a first down.
Yeah, and he's starting to now get him between the hashes. So Derry and I were saying earlier it was mainly outside stuff working. Now they're working inside, they're working outside. And this is what, if you're Coach Henney, this is what you want. You want your running back to be able to run all over the field because, as you said, as the season progresses, you can't just do it on the outside.
Thrown for Howard, a bit high, and that's incomplete. Royal leads Buena over at Buena Stadium 7-3. Matt Shimbato with the touchdown run. Dos Pueblos on top of Pacifica, as Deuce mentioned, 14-0. That's in the second quarter. Oak Park up 14-0 on Beverly Hills. Santa Paula leads Indian Springs 14-0 as well. We'll keep you posted on these scores as they develop. 2nd and 10. Kind of awkward inside give for Cameron Trimble.
Yeah, he just recovered the fumble, so now they'll reward him and give him his first carry.
Filling in really on both sides of the ball. Yeah, right. Picks up, a half a yard? With Trimble in that fullback position, he's really filling in defensively and offensively for Reno Dubriel, who was such an outstanding player for Westlake these last few years.
It's a huge loss, graduation of him. They lost some really key guys on defense.
But with Shook and Hall and Trimble, they're still loaded. And on 3rd down, pass complete down inside the 2-yard line. Shane Ho, the senior, with the catch. 1st and goal from the 1 for the Westlake Warriors.
Great play. Ho made one guy miss. close to a touchdown, but now I think I'm probably pretty safe to say that we know whose number is going to get the call here. You have to think 1st and goal at the 1, you're going with Chase Jasmine, and you're going to ride him out, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 downs to get this touchdown.
Well, they do spread 3 wide receivers to the near side. Oxnard has 3 linebackers in the box awaiting Jasmine, and he's stuffed. No gain for Chase Jasmine, although it probably is more of an inevitability than anything.
You would think so, but you never know. All it takes is one loss or something bad offensively. We've already seen one bad snap. If that happens again, you can take yourself out of this. But, yeah, I would be surprised if you don't see another inside rush here by Jasmine.
This time Bunker will work from under center. It's a pitch left side to Jasmine, stretching wide, stretching out into the end zone. Penalty flag down, though, on the goal line. And we'll see. It would appear that this infraction is holding against the offense. They'll be backed up 10 yards. And, that's one thing we're seeing here from this Oxnard team is that they're there's a lot of fight in this group of players, I think. We saw them on the field before the game. They're incredibly motivated. You can really feel the spirit kind of emanating through the players and an energy that Coach Mack has brought.
Yeah, I mean, I know just looking at Facebook things through the whole summer, they did a lot of work in the sand, on the beaches. This team really worked to get stronger, trying to set something new for this program.
Bunker, space to throw to the right. It's high, and I thought there was an opportunity for the defensive back to pick that off. Was I the only one?
Well, it was clearly not going to be caught. It sailed over the wide receiver's hand and his head. I think that the Oxnard defender was so close to the receiver that there's almost no way he's going to get there. But nonetheless, that was probably the first real poor pass we've seen from Bunker all evening. And now it sets up 3rd and goal. Ball's on the 14. It's asking a lot to find a way to get this all the way in. But you do have a kicker with a leg, so worst case, you're trying to at least extend and get to a 14-point lead.
2-touchdown game. Just 4 minutes, 42 seconds to go. Bunker throwing for the end zone, and wow, Ho just couldn't haul that one in. That was a really nice throw from Bunker, only where his slot receiver could get it.
Yeah, he put that right on the
was pretty good defended, too. Don't you think there's 2 guys on the receiver?
I'm an offensive guy, though.
It was a tight window, but it was a good throw. But you're right, that was not poor defense by any means. There were 2 receivers that both ran kind of inside post. You had number 12 go inside Corso, and then 24 Ho. He had both of them slightly open, but ultimately could not haul it in. Good hold by the Oxnard defense. They needed to step up. Back-to-back possessions now. They've kept Westlake out of the end zone.
Can Crawford convert this one? Yes. 17-3. The Warriors lead the Oxnard Yellow Jackets. That is the first score of the second quarter. 4:31 to go.
Well, there's been some good things we've seen from this Oxnard team. They're down 17-3, but, they had that one really good drive. They've made some key stops. I mean, 2 possessions inside their territory back-to-back, and they only surrendered a field goal. That's some real positive things for them.
Yeah, and now you need the offense to step up. This is a defense now, back-to-back possessions they've held. It's time for the offense. They go down here, let's say they muster up a 4-minute drive, they get a touchdown, and they go into the half down 17-10 with the ball to start the third. All of a sudden, this is not only a game, they're right there with a chance to tie this early in the third. That needs to be the mindset here. Not only using clock, but finding a way, get your first touchdown, build some confidence as you hopefully head into the locker room halfway closer to tying this game.
Against the number 1 ranked team in the county.
Right. I think exactly that. We have to look at the situation that we're in for this Oxnard team. Very positive defensively on these last couple possessions. And I think consistency in the way they mix the run and the pass is what's missing. There will be an effective throw, and then Caldera will be stopped on 2 runs. Or he'll pick up 6, and there are a couple incomplete passes. So they need to convert running and throwing the football and really in unison.
Yeah, and efficiency comes with reps. It comes with experience. This is, it's August 28th. We still have several weeks before you get into that midseason grind. But nonetheless, let's see what they can do here. If they're efficient on this drive, I think they can go down and put up some points.
On 1st and 10, Caldera meets Shook. He actually rumbles for a yard or two at least, which looks like a huge challenge considering he and Shook butted into each other basically right at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, that's not going to be the last time those two hit each other tonight. I think Caldera and Shook, if they weren't friends going into this game, they're at least going to respect one another afterwards, and they're going to be close because that's probably 5 or 10 more times tonight the 44 and 36 are going to run into one another.
Caldera now wind up at the slot receiver position, 5 wide. Near side slot wide out.
Oh, nice play.
Pagano.
Nice play. I really like that.
Yeah, if that pass was accurate, that's a first down. Great play call. That time you had Kaiser Weiss with a chance to go inside, make that play. It was slightly behind him. He didn't pull in the catch. But I'm with you, Derry. I like the play call. You just have to go out and execute.
Drew Cowhallan, the defensive back on the play, mind you. 3rd down and 8 now. Pagano from under center will throw the screen pass to Caldera, and he is chewed up by David Cisi. C-I-S-I, just to be clear on David. And that is a big stop from David Cisi. And 4th down, Oxnard 3 and out. They'll be forced to punt.
They had the one play that could have been a first down. It was a good call on a slant, unable to execute. And now Westlake, they have 3 minutes plus. They have 1 timeout left. Great open field tackle. Now the pressure goes back on this Oxnard defense. How many times can they continue to hold? They've done it back-to-back possessions. Can they do it a 3rd time? It's going to be tough. But so far, the defense has held its own. The offense needed to come up there, couldn't get it done.
Nice punt from Pagano.
That's maybe about as good as punt as I've seen him make.
And you kept it away from Howard. So it's one of those things, not only the distance was good, but you get it out of Howard's hands, that's usually a win.
The ball will be spotted at the 48-yard line, so Westlake will start in Oxnard territory with 3 minutes and 2 seconds left. But you look at Pagano as a punter and how he can actually kick the ball. That provides a lot of versatility on 4th down. I know Oxnard went for it, that fake punt, 2 series ago, and he came up short, didn't convert. But at the same time, for future reference, that could be a really beneficial weapon. Theo Howard complete for about 7.
And a good gain on 1st down.
The 24th straight play in Oxnard territory.
Wow, what a figure.
And to think about it, too, only 17 points. That's saying something about the fact that this defense is finding its own rhythm, because usually when the stat like that happens, Derry, there's 31 points or 27 points.
Run to the right side and
good blocking downfield.
Yeah, Vincent Corso, who will be a really important complementary receiver to Theo Howard, scoops that one in and picks up the 1st down.
Yeah, I like Corso and Ho, 2 outside receivers that also you can sort of put there in the slot as well. You have Howard, we know what he can do. Barclay showed a good play earlier, and then Corso and Ho, they have some real weapons to throw to.
1st down, here's Bunker, that's complete. Colton Rogers this time. And you have to start to develop secondary weapons as well, don't you? Especially in the Marmani League, and especially as you potentially prepare for the Pac-5 playoffs. You have to cultivate weapons outside of Howard and Jasmine if you're ever really going to succeed.
Forget Pac-5. You need to get the Marmani League, which is going to be really good this year.
Jasmine struts into the end zone. Touchdown, Warriors. Jasmine from 30 yards out, and it's 23-3.
That time a great run by Jasmine. Good vision, great blocking, and then he finished off the run. Those defensive backs, they had to be a little bit afraid there at the end because they're thinking he's 25 yards, downhill running. How are we going to get this guy down? Simple play, easy effectiveness, and that was a heck of a drive. Now there's still some time for Oxnard before this half wraps up, but the Westlake defense held, and now the offense finally answered this quarter. It only seemed like it was a matter of time before they scored another touchdown. That time it happened.
PAT is up and through. Jasmine certainly is a downhill runner. Once he gets ahead of steam, he really appears all but impossible to stop.
Well, the Oxnard defense has been on the field for a long time. You know, with the offense going 3 and out or 4 and out on 3 consecutive possessions, you've laid a heavy burden on that defense, and they did really well for a couple possessions, but you know, you would think they had to be pretty tired at this point.
Yeah, you said what, 20? What is that now? 27?
It'll be 27 or 28.
Well,
plays.
by both teams, but I mean, the ball's been on the Oxnard side of the field
right,
for
I
a
see what
long
you're saying.
time.
Still.
And then it seems like, at least to me, I look at this and I say, if you're Oxnard, you get down 24-3, you start to wonder, do we have the passing game right at this moment to come back and win this game without getting a turnover or 2 defensively? Now the pressure really falls on Pagano, and that's what's going to be challenging.
Well, he should have an opportunity with back-to-back possessions here, though.
Oh, what a
Oxnard will
block.
turn it
What
up
a
to
block.
the 15, 20, and corralled finally at the 25-yard line is Kaiser Weiss. Special teams have been strong for the most part for Oxnard, and as you said, a staple of John Mack. Been really solid on kick returns. They've started, between the 25 and 40 predominantly on the 4 kick returns.
Great job by Jacob Fernandez taking out 2 Oxnard guys right there trying to get on the kick returner.
First down and 10 from the 28. 2-back set. Pagano with some extra protection. Now throwing to the far side of the field, and it's just above the outstretched arm of Blake Kilgore.
And a flag down. It looks like they're going to call maybe an unnecessary roughness. If you saw the end of that play, Kilgore got hit sort of low towards as the ball was sailing over his head. I think they're going to call that on either the linebacker or maybe the safety that was out there in coverage. So I think Oxnard will benefit here and get a free 15 yards, assuming they uphold this flag.
Well, when you have penalties like this, as we saw in the opening drive, it's what you do with it. And Oxnard with 104 seconds remaining in this half.
3 timeouts, though.
And there is the personal foul, 15-yard penalty against the Westlake Warriors. Oxnard will work from, about the 43-yard line, we'll say, after this is marked off.
Bunch of penalties on Westlake earlier.
And if you know Tony Henney, like I know Tony Henney, he's not going to be happy at halftime. I can tell you that much. First and 10 from the 42. Caldera spins and stays on his feet for an extra yard.
Yeah, that time Hall came, got the initial hit, and then Trimble, the man who just recovered the fumble last possession, he comes and makes the big cleanup tackle. And so there's been a few defenders. I really like a lot of these linebackers, whether it's Hall, Trimble, and then, of course, Shook. All these guys are pretty good on that second level.
Another drop pass along the near side. Ryan Caldera just couldn't haul that one in, and that's been a problem for Dalton's completion percentage.
Yeah, there's been at least 3 drops now that has happened that, frankly, are not on Pagano.
We're going to name this Westlake linebacking trio, okay? And this is how they will hitherto be referred the rest of the season. Brandon Shook, Brandon Hall, Cameron Trimble. That's the BBC. I like it.
There we go, but now we have to see.
Stone. Those 3 are just a nasty unit together. And to lose an all-county player, county defensive player of the year, like Reno Dubriel, and there's these 3 patrolling the middle of the field, it seems as if there's very little drop-off.
Yeah, they've been excellent so far. And if you look at it, Oxnard showed some ability in its first possession to move the ball. And then this past possession, last 2, there's been some drops. But every time there's been a run up the middle, one of those 3, Hall, Shook, Trimble, has been there ready for Caldera and has either hit him backwards or stopped him right at the point of contact. And that's what you want. When you're a head coach, you want your linebackers, when they hit you, that running back shouldn't keep going after that. And out of the 2 teams tonight, when Jasmine's been hit, he's been able to keep going a few times, get those yards after contact. for Oxnard, they've had trouble getting yards after contact. It really hasn't happened too much outside of, I think, one carry.
I don't think we've called the names of the Westlake safeties once in this game. And it's because Oxnard's not getting to that second level, and not just because of the linebackers, but also what Daniel Fox is doing at the corner position, what Drew Cahalan is doing at the corner position as well.
And now it's 3rd and long once again, and you sort of, in a way, take your best weapon out of the play in this time. If you're 3rd and short, you feed Caldera. 3rd and 8, chances are you're going to one of these receivers, and they haven't shown the ability so far to step up and haul in these passes.
Pagano drops, throws Caldera near side. There is their lead weapon. Fumbles the football, still on the ground at the 45. Picked up by Westlake. Cahalan is pummeled, and there's a penalty flag down for more than likely a helmet-to-helmet hit, although it looks like it'll be negated by
little frustration.
By taunting probably on the other side. So that's just my prognostication of what these two penalties are.
And who made the hit? It was Trimble, the same one that recovered the fumble last time. He made the initial hit, one-on-one open field on Caldera, and ultimately one of those linebackers, the BBC, as you said, that time stepping up, making the play.
All right, I like it. We're
I think the second penalty is going to be a unsportsmanlike after the penalty, so it won't be like the penalties won't negate each other. It'll be the recovered the fumble, and then they'll march it off against Westlake.
But I believe there was an initial penalty for helmet-to-helmet contact against Oxnard. That penalty and then the Westlake penalty will negate one another.
Yeah, it's what one thing is Westlake will still have the ball.
Yes, Westlake will have the ball, but they were going to have the ball 15 yards closer to the Oxnard goal line, and I don't believe they will at this point.
Yeah, they called helmet-to-helmet on the first, and then unsportsmanlike. So, yeah, that's pretty much the way it's going to go. And after, I know when we went to break, Danny, at the end of the first, it said, this doesn't seem like a week 0 game. It's been relatively not sloppy. And then the second quarter, you're starting to see some of that.
Second quarter, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Well, it is Westlake football. That much we can agree on.
Now 1:01 left. You still have a timeout, and you've shown the ability to get a few monster runs with Chase Jasmine. 78-yard touchdown, 30-yard touchdown. Once again, Derry, they're in plus territory, which is where they've been seemingly all game. This is a Westlake offense here that has to feel pretty confident. I mentioned 17-3, maybe Oxnard finds a way to go into the half, 17-10. All of a sudden now, Westlake can really separate and open this game, bust it wide open with another touchdown. And even if you don't get a touchdown, maybe 10, 15 yards, you get a field goal. It's not that bad.
Pretty much think they have already. Pretty much busted it open. Another flag.
And the pass for Howard is incomplete. Grace Brethren leads Fillmore 13-0 at the end of the first quarter. Royal leads Buena 13-3 at the half. I think a lot of us are really anticipating a big season from Matt Shimbato.
Grace Brethren up 13-0.
We're getting word from Santa Paula 22-7. We're getting word from our producer upstairs, Anthony Placencia, who is up on a roof tonight in our lovely container press box, as that's a 5-yard penalty against Westlake, that a young man's name who we've called quite a bit. For some, I'm struggling to find him on my Westlake roster. David, I said Cece. It's actually Chisi, the Italian youngster. I apologize profusely.
Incomplete.
Yeah, incomplete pass. Clock stops with 49 seconds left. 2nd and 15 coming up. Oxnard will receive the second half kickoff. We'll give Dalton Pagano a chance to start fresh, but will he be down 3 touchdowns or more is the question. Second and 15. Bunker. Screen pass to Howard. Howard, one cut, and Howard is corralled by a swarm of jackets.
Yeah, there wasn't much he was going to do there. He made the first guy miss, then he spun around, and there were 4 yellow jackets waiting for him. That's not something you ever want to see as a receiver. So really, great defense on that play by the Yellow Jackets.
You know, as a young man, I was once attacked by Yellow Jackets. About 6 of them, all on my leg at once. It wasn't fun.
Was that last week or the week before?
It was probably about 15 years ago.
You're still a young man.
That is true, Derry. You know, and I feel young again every time I'm in the booth here on the VCSPreps Game of the Week, our 5th season, bringing you live broadcasts. And it's been tremendous to work with the Ventura County Star and obviously everything that goes on in print and on digital, of course now on social media as well. You know, we're looking at video of touchdowns being delivered on Twitter. Make sure you're following at VCSPreps, of course. The use of Periscope for pregame coverage as well has really been outstanding. A lot of photos from tonight's game being posted. So across print, across web, across social, and this broadcast, of course, Ventura County Star really putting together just more unrivaled coverage in the region, and I would say in Southern California in terms of high school football as we start the 2015 campaign. Jasmine hit from behind, 4th down and 7 on the way.
Out of timeouts, though, so now you need to either
Just take a shot for the end zone.
Or get a first down, spike it, and kick a field goal if you can pick up like a good 10.
12 seconds remaining. Bunker rolling to the right. Throws downfield.
I think he may have been past the line of scrimmage.
He
was
was
pretty close.
It appeared he was across the line of scrimmage, don't you think?
Either way, though, turnover on downs, and now you get to the half down 24-3. But, yeah, he was definitely over the line of scrimmage, but incomplete pass. I guess the officials figured no harm, no foul.
Gil Scott Jackson with a 1-yard touchdown
for
Oaks Christian. Notre Dame and Oaks are tied at 14 just before halftime. Rio is still on top of Camarillo, 17-15 left in the half. That looks like a good one. Chaminade stopped on the 1-yard line on 4th down and 4. St. Bonnie takes over on down. St. Bonnie leading 10-7. Boy, that would be a huge win for Adam Guerra to start the season. 1st down and 10 with 4 seconds left. I think they're light alignment.
Yep, here he comes.
Yeah, running out on the field now, Edward Nunez, who wasn't out there for the first 20 seconds of the play.
Pagano completes that. A 9-yard gain. And that will bring us to halftime. An even start from these two adversaries, but Westlake has utilized their speed on the edge and jumped out to a 24-3 lead, albeit over a very resilient Oxnard team. We'll take a break at halftime on the VCSPreps Game of the Week. Westlake 24, Oxnard 3.
Tonight, Westlake is here at Oxnard High School. We're going to watch it live. And right now, VCSPreps.
A reminder, ladies and gentlemen, the snack bar is open on both ends of the football field. Hot dogs, hamburgers, fried dips, water, Gatorade, coffee, whatever you need. The restrooms are also open as well. Halftime score from VCSPreps via Twitter. Thousand Oaks leads Ventura 23-13. Santa Paula High School leads Indian Springs 22-7 at halftime. Gardena 41, Santa Clara at halftime. Rio Mesa leads Camarillo 17-15. Halftime. Los Pueblos 17, Pacifica 0. Halftime. Chaminade 13, St. Bonaventure 10 at halftime. Royal High School 13, Atlanta 3, halftime.
set for the start of the second half of the VCSPreps game of the week. My name is Danny Page with me, Kent Brown, and the Deuce Dairy Eats. Deuce, what would you, on college football-wise, are you a UTEP fan then, or do you like the Longhorns?
I'm a UTEP fan. Yeah, I'm a UTEP fan.
Okay. I was going to say, you got a USC guy, a Notre Dame guy, and a Texas guy. That doesn't normally mix, but we're going to make it mix here for us. As a nice return for Oxnard. Their kicking game, their special teams game has been outstanding. Alex Sardi returning that up toward midfield. What did John Mack say at halftime is what I want to know.
Well, when you look at it, this is the type of team that, they had their moments early on in the first quarter where you thought they might make a game out of this. Then we're going, there's 3 minutes left in the second quarter, you're down 17-3. You're thinking, get an offensive possession here, put some points on the board, put some pressure on Westlake. It didn't happen that way. I think the main thing, if you're John Mack, you say, be efficient, clean football, make high percentage throws, and then defensively, when you hit the running back and you hit Jasmine, you better knock him on the ground. Too many times he was shedding tacklers and making yards after contact. Well, on the other hand, your team wasn't.
Well, in the last 5 possessions, Oxnard had just 22 yards on 16 plays.
Well, they're halfway there as they've picked up 10 on the opening 2 plays here. Derry, one thing I think that when you look at John Mack's halftime talk, he probably is complimentary of his players for the energy that they've brought and the passion that they've demonstrated in the first half of this game.
Do you know a different John Mack than I do? Yeah. I don't think John Mack is
necessarily.
He needs to try to fire these guys up. I mean, they playing pretty good for a while against a team that's ranked number 1 in Ventura County. They've played really good on defense, except for really about 2 or 3 plays. They've played really outstanding on defense.
And it looks like here they might be looking to measure to see if it's a first
down.
But
measure.
But we're right in front of where the 45-yard line is. It appears like they have it, according to where the sticks are, probably by at least 2/3 of the football.
I would say probably the whole football.
So let's, during this official timeout, and I'll talk to our producer, Anthony Placencia, let's draw your attention to the Westlake defensive coordinator, who is impossible to miss. He is in bright orange, working his way toward the 50-yard line. And for those of you that have been Ventura County football veterans for a long time, that is a strange sight because that is Cliff Farrar, longtime Nordhoff head coach, then Buena head coach. Cliff Farrar, the defensive coordinator at Westlake High School. He drives an hour every day from Ojai to Westlake for practice, obviously retired at this point. One of the legends of Ventura County coaching is now the DC at Westlake.
Looks like they're having to attach the chain to the marker.
That's good. Thoughts on Coach Farrar, though, Derry being over at Westlake High School?
Well, he's going to follow Tony Henney.
Yeah.
They're really close. He kind of likes the defensive coordinator's position.
And he and Tony work well together.
Yeah, they really work. Tony was a player under him.
If this isn't a week 0 moment, I don't know what is. Really.
Yeah, out of all the potential sort of roadblocks in the first game for all this, we also have to remember it's the first game for the crew, for the referees, for everyone else, and I guess it's taken them a little longer than normal to get this measurement down.
Well, the chain broke.
Yeah, the chain.
Yeah, and that.
Yeah, and by the whole football, they got it. So all of that for what I think we pretty much knew was going to happen anyways. But that's why you get the kinks out here in August. You don't want that to happen late in the season in a game where it's week 9, week 10. So I guess they got the right call. That's ultimately what matters. And now you mentioned 16 total or 22 total yards on 16 plays. They picked up 10 and 2. That's a good start for this quarter. But again, at this point, you're not playing for field goals. You're not playing for moral victories. You're playing for touchdowns. And I think they need to work it with Caldera and really establish this running game here in this third quarter.
Here's the younger Caldera in motion. Pitch out to Raymond. 2-yard loss on the play. The ball ultimately squirted loose.
Boy, that squirted out about 15 yards.
And who was there once again? ultimately, that linebacking core led by Cameron Trimble, they're at the point of contact. And that's really been the difference, Danny and Derry. As I've mentioned right before we start the third quarter, when Westlake hits you, you go down. When Oxnard's hit you, sometimes you've shaken off those tackles, and Westlake's been able to get touchdowns or first downs. This has been very well, and you mentioned Coach Farrar. He's teaching these kids well, because when they center up and when they strike you, there's no yards after contact, and that's been big.
I just want to let you know, George Weisfuss is the safety for Westlake, and we have yet to call his name. We almost did that time as a deflected pass went just beyond his outstretched hands. The passing game's still a little out of rhythm for Oxnard.
Yeah, another crossing route that time dropped. I believe that's now 4 that have been dropped by the Oxnard receivers or tight ends.
Well, that's going to be a tough play to catch is behind him. We've seen a couple behind the receivers. So it's not always the receivers. Even though it gets in their hand, that's a tough catch to make.
Yeah, you're right. The timing for those have been a bit off at times. And it's kind of expected. I'm not shocked that that's been the case. But once again, 3rd and long, that's setting up for a bad situation here for the Yellow Jackets.
Screenplay to Caldera.
Boy, that screen had just not worked well for them at all.
Caldera gets back to the original line of scrimmage, 4th and 9 now.
Do you guys go for it here? I mean, you
Yes,
did the
absolutely.
fake punt earlier. You're in plus territory. It looks like they're sending out the
Coach
special
Mack
teams
doesn't
unit.
agree. I guess you are giving your defense a lot to deal with again. You know, allow the defense to establish a little bit of confidence by giving them good field position to work with defensively. Pagano's the punter. Theo Howard back to receive. Howard has yet to electrify in this contest. Pagano puts that one up in the air. It'll take a soft bounce at the 25 and will be ultimately down inside the 20 at the 18-yard line. So Oxnard possesses the ball for just shy of 3 minutes, gives it back to the Westlake Warriors. I want to ask about Theo Howard, and you obviously follow recruiting, Kent. And he hasn't made a commitment yet anywhere, but it seems to be, and we should ask the guys from, you know, a major national recruiting site down to our left what they think. But it seems to be the worst-kept secret in local football that he's probably going to USC.
Yeah, that seems to be the favorite. And a lot of times with these recruits, they don't necessarily want to pledge to a school because if you're not 100% sold and you know the coaching staff will hold your scholarship, there's not really a rush at that point. And so you don't want to make that pledge and then, you know, afterwards say, oh, I'm going to go to UCLA or go somewhere else. But as of now, it does seem like your Trojans are certainly the favorites. And frankly, he looks the part. He definitely does.
Flag on the play.
Yeah, Howard nearly electrified on that play, but there's a penalty flag that looks like it'll negate about a 20-yard gain.
We've seen a lot of decommits. It's like a commit. It doesn't mean anything anymore from either side.
But I think Theo Howard, and I actually saw him wearing USC gear the other day at Westlake practice. He seems like one that could
Ricky
be
Town was practicing with USC for a whole spring.
Well, and the other thing, too, they always say once you commit to a school, that makes your challengers know who's the team to beat. So really, all a commitment does for the most part is it opens up the floodgates. Instead of recruiting against everybody, now the coaching staff that you're going up against can really negative recruit against that one school. And sometimes that works to a player's disadvantage to be the type that commits so early and then has the rest of these coaching staffs pretty much badmouth the other team for 3 or 4 months.
Here's Howard. Takes down a defensive back and scoops forward for about 13 total yards. Here's the one piece of advice. You know what? No. I have 2 pieces of advice I would have for highly recruited players. One is if you commit to a school, even verbally, maintain that commitment. 2, go on as many free trips as you can, okay? If these teams are going to travel you around the western U.S. or around the country, take advantage of that, you know.
Yeah, my dad always said that too because we had a lot of friends we grew up with that went on recruiting visits and were national recruits, and he always said, you know, even if you know where you're going to go, look into schools in Florida, Texas, California, and go to those places and get your free weekend trip because once you're at a school, you're not going to be able to go back. A lot of these kids ended up at like Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State. But visit South Florida, visit Texas, visit UCLA, and just get that nice weekend where you're kind of away from the cold weather if you can. But on the other hand, you're a kid from Southern California. Maybe it's the opposite. You want to go to a place like Ohio State or Michigan or Notre Dame where the weather's a bit uncomfortable just to see if that could maybe turn you.
I can see the recruiting favorites lists for the counterparts of yours that you're talking about. Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, San Diego State, and Florida International. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Just throw in a trip to Miami and San Diego, and there you go. Westlake picks up a first down. It's now back to, after a 3-yard loss on that play, 2nd down and 13. As the game looks to develop something of a flow here in the second half. It was a disjointed second quarter, very much a week 0 second quarter, if you will, as Bunker throws. And that is bobbled and dropped, nearly intercepted, Deuce. Vincent Corso couldn't come down with it. Aaron Sanchez, a diving attempt at a pick.
Yeah, Corso on that play deflected it and then nearly put it into the hands of an Oxnard defender. Fortunately for Westlake, it wasn't intercepted, but also unfortunate, it was right in the numbers and that it wasn't even complete. So that time, kind of both teams had a chance at it, and ultimately that could have been the one thing that Oxnard needed, a spark, maybe a pick six or some sort of turnover to get back in the game.
Well, they could force a turnover on downs of sorts here, at least force a punt on 3rd down and 12. Not too much pressure on Bunker, and he completes it to Jasmine. Jasmine on the wheel route has been the absolute star tonight. Stops, starts again, and takes it inside the 10-yard line. What a play for Chase Jasmine. He is such an electrifying senior. It was the term I used to describe Howard, but he has been brilliant.
A 54-yard gain. That time you have just a wheel route with the running back. Jasmine has shown his ability to carry the ball, stretch it to the outside on the left, up the gut for a 30-yard touchdown. He now has a 78-yard rushing touchdown, a 30-yard rushing touchdown, and a 54-yard reception. He's been the MVP today. He's been the playmaker.
Darius, it's what we talked about. This young man needs to see the ball more than he did last year.
Yep.
Throwing toward the end zone off the top of Theo Howard's hands. And I think when we did the Westlake Mater Dei game, wasn't it last year, and we did the Westlake Newberry Park game, that was one of the big questions we had late in the game, is why he didn't see the football more.
Yep. No question about it.
And also, if you can catch the ball like that as a running back, that's a whole nother weapon for this offense, because now teams have to put a corner or a safety and really go uncomfortable around them.
Bunker bobbles it and takes it all the way down to the 1-yard line, just shy of the end zone. Bunker's been solid tonight.
Yeah, Bunker's been good, and a lot of it has been the offensive play calling for him. As Derry said, about midway through the first quarter, he wasn't forcing anything. He really still hasn't forced anything. That time, he looked back, wasn't open, fumbled it a bit, ran for all the way to the 1. He's done that maybe 4 times now, where he's just taken the simple run rather than force a pass.
Motion man, play fake to Jasmine, has a man wide open on the far side, instead throws it near side, incomplete, and there's a penalty flag down. Either of you have a guess as to what that was? I didn't seem to catch that.
Not too sure. I just know that Trimble was wide open.
All by himself on the far side. And that's a read that Bunker has to make going forward.
Of course, because that's a free 6 points. Trimble's open. Instead, he tries for the longer pass all the way on the left side. It still should have been caught, but nonetheless, you have Trimble wide open. You need to get that read, get the ball out, take your 6, get up 31-3.
Holding against Westlake.
Penalty will be declined. 4th down and 3, and Westlake's going for it. Can the Yellow Jackets hold off Westlake once again? It is 24-3, but they've rejected him on a couple occasions, and this time Bunker is into the end zone for a touchdown. Hindsight's 20/20, but you might have thought about taking the penalty.
Well, you would think.
Yeah, why not make it 3rd and 13? I don't really understand that. Why give them, especially their offensive line?
See the look on Derry's face.
Yeah, their offensive line is dominated up front.
So you would have taken the penalty, Deuce.
Well, yeah. Anybody would. I would.
We're going to have to ask Coach Mack about that one after the game. About
the only time you don't take that penalty is if it's at the end of the game and you want the ball back to score.
Right. The PAT is up and good. It's 31-3. Still can't get over the look on Derry's face right now.
Yeah, first one I was looking over there and saw the 4th down, so why did they they must have miscounted the downs. Then I saw at the 2. It's like, what the heck is going on?
Well, I have to say one thing. I was thinking about Grant Bunker and his, his performance tonight. One of the important things about covering high school sports, in terms of broadcasts, in terms of print, and I think the Star does a great job with this, you really need to cover the here and now. You need to cover what's in front of you. And we're halfway through the third quarter, and no one has mentioned the name Malik Henry in this entire broadcast. And I gotta hand it to our crew, to the three of us, for not bringing up Henry at all. I mean, he was supposed to be the starter tonight on a team that was a Pac-5 favorite.
Yeah, he was in some rankings as the number 1 high school quarterback in the country. Of course, leaves Westlake, goes down to IMG Academy in Bradenton. Florida State commit, wants to work on that pro-style offense. Gets in some trouble down there, leaves, ends up now at Long Beach Poly, figure out exactly when he can fit in at Poly and start to play games. But yeah, he's a superstar quarterback, and clearly this is a Westlake team that had to replace him, and Grant Bunker stepped in tonight, and he's done a heck of a job.
Well, there are very few seasons where Poly is not the league champion, and I think they know that they might struggle a little bit at the quarterback spot, and just in general, having lost Juju Smith and Biggie Marshall over the last 2 years, they'll struggle a little bit in the non-league. But at the same time, for Poly, they'll be league champions, and they'll be in the Pac-5 postseason. I don't doubt that. And
it might very well be a Westlake-Poly game in a few months. Malik Henry against this former team. We're looking now a few months down the line, but that's definitely possible.
Just some scores to bring you up to speed on. Obviously 31-3 here. Chaminade has come out with a vengeance in the second half. They lead St. Bonaventure 20-10 with 8:48 to go in the third quarter. At halftime, Camarillo 23, Rio Mesa 17 out at Rio. That is just a tremendous game. Newberry Park on top of Birmingham 13-6. Santa Paula is leading Indian Springs 30-7. Here's Pagano pressured, escapes. Now he'll try and pick up a block as he runs to the left side, upended, but Pagano picks up the first down. His mobility can be a key as well.
Yeah, he's shown good mobility, and for the most part, he's been a pretty good decision maker tonight. But on the other hand, I think at this point you're down 31-3. It might be time to air it out a bit more and really test this defensive backs. Because as you said earlier, Danny, these safeties, these corners, we haven't heard their names much because everything's been up 3, 4, 5 yards off the line of scrimmage. And if you're Westlake, you can live with a 9 or 10 yard rush right now. You just don't want that home run play to get them back in the game.
What I'd like to see is them use some different personnel. Let's see what another receiver can do, what another running back can do. You're gone 31-3. In fact, Westlake needs to do the same thing. Let's find some more playmakers in here.
Well, Westlake needs to find more playmakers.
They just can't do it on 3 guys. They can't do it on 3 guys.
Howard and Jasmine will be shut down at points throughout the season, whether that be in league or obviously in the Pac-5 postseason if they make it that far. For Westlake, they take on Red Mountain, the team from Mesa, Arizona, renewing that rivalry. Then Los Angeles Garfield. The big game for Westlake, and I think for Coach Henney personally, is coming up on September 18th. I'll get to that in a second, as the pass to the near side is incomplete. Santa Margarita, he's really made a point that Westlake wants to beat a Pac-5 team. They nearly beat Mater Dei last year in that absolute thriller we had for you the first Thursday in October. And then they go to Dominguez Compton. So Westlake's path over the next month, quite clear. And it's all about that Santa Margarita game, which Coach Henney brought up with Lauren Ledeen in press a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's what you're targeting. We know that Westlake right now, if not the best team in the county, right there. But can they go against the big guns down in Orange County, Los Angeles, and really send a message to all of Southern California that they're in it and they're going to be in it until the end? And what I like, though, is Corso's looked pretty good tonight. Chase Ho has had his moments. Cameron Trimble on both sides has been effective. Those are the names as this season progresses. They have to become established playmakers because there's no doubt Howard at times will get shut down. Jasmine's not going to be picking off 70, 50, 60 yards every game. You're going to need guys like Barclay and Corso and Ho to step up and really just bring more elements to this Warriors offense because we know it's explosive, but can those guys step up and be top-end players the way Howard, Jasmine, and Bunker are?
Again, to me, the storyline in this game in terms of who has stepped up, we knew what we'd see from Jasmine, but it's been those 3 Westlake linebackers. And obviously you lose the County Defensive Player of the Year, Reno Dubriel, who's currently at the New Mexico Military Institute doing a prep year for the United States Merchant Marine Academy. He's going to play for the Merchant Marine Academy in New York next year. We know the Dubriels are tuning into this game. Great to have you guys with us. Obviously a big contributor to Westlake football over the past few years, but these boys are certainly picking up where Reno left off.
Well, the one group that hasn't been tested has been the Westlake secondary.
Are they even on the field? The free safety is literally, he's not even involved in the game. This pass complete to the near side, number 28, Alex Sardi.
Well, they just have like one guy deep and everybody about 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
Looks like a punt formation. Let's round out this Westlake schedule, shall we, as Oxnard looks set to punt on 4th down here. They visit Paraclete in Lancaster on October 9th, and then an away game against Newberry Park on October 16th. Last we saw, by the way, Newberry Park was leading Balboa Park Birmingham, 13-6. Then they play Moore Park on the 23rd, a visit to St. Bonaventure the night before Halloween, and then Oaks Christian to close the season. The punt hits dead at the 37. I'll say this about Dalton Pagano. I hope he plays golf because his punts just find a spot on the grass and just stick there.
Yeah, I need my 9-iron to look a bit more like that. At times, it kind of lands on the green and rolls all the way off. Pagano lands it, sticks it, and really sends a message. And he's
I hope it goes more than 24 yards.
Right.
That's true. That's a good point.
That sounds like my game.
If I have my
honest.
60 or 64-degree wedge out, that's about the distance I want. But with a pitching wedge, yeah, I want it to go a bit further than that.
31-3, and Chase Jasmine goes back to work.
Well, I just don't understand why you have Jasmine.
I knew you were going to say that. I just left that one out there for you.
I would think this is his final possession. Maybe you want him to get.
Well, why is he even out there?
It's weak. It's the opening game, though. I understand.
Exactly. We want to see other personnel do something. You're not
going to win this argument.
Don't
man.
you?
Okay.
Well, you want to get him over 300 yards or what?
It's easiest just to nod your head. And say no, I
let's
agree.
Just see him get hurt.
What is his yardage total, Derry?
It's like 183.
Yeah, and we do need to see some backups in. So I get what you're saying. It's one of those things where if he were to go down, everyone would be talking, why was he in the game, up 31-3? And not to mention, I'm not sure there's even been anybody outside of Bunker that's even had a carry for the Warriors. So at some point, yeah, you do want to incorporate your backups and get more experience, because there's no doubt as the season goes on, you're going to need somebody else in the backfield to get there. But it's still the third quarter, so I kind of think most head coaches normally play their starters out 3 quarters, put the backups in the fourth.
On 3rd and 10, Bunker looks to get rid of it, and he's sacked. Westlake will punt. Daniel Vasio Pena with the sack.
His second sack of the game.
And I think he's down on the field as well. Slow to get up. So hopefully Pena's all right. He's going to limp off the field. He's favoring that right leg. Hopefully he'll be back next week for Oxnard's game against Quartz Hill. They head out to 14 to take on Quartz Hill. And then another long road trip up to San Luis Obispo. The Jackets then host Buena here. That should be a fun game. I would think that would be a game we'd look at, although that night our crew will be at Santa Paula Fillmore. 103rd meeting, I want to say, between Santa Paula and 104th. I don't know.
Something like that.
They played a lot. Let's put it that way.
Did you see in one newspaper in Southern California, they were talking about the 10 best rivalries in Southern California and did not mention Santa Paula Fillmore.
Unbelievable.
The oldest rivalry in Southern California.
No, it's not the oldest, right? It's the most played.
Most played.
Because they played twice a season. I think in terms of area teams, the oldest rivalry is Ventura and Oxnard.
That was as far as it started 1 year earlier.
It started 1 year earlier.
Right.
Now, going even further back, if we include Santa Barbara, wasn't it Ventura Santa Barbara is the oldest game that there's record of?
I'm not sure exactly
You're not sure.
I'd have to. I don't remember.
You're supposed to know
It's
these
like
things.
Stump the Schwab, the old
It
ESPN
is.
game, and now this is coming about.
Dupe the deuce.
Is that going to be your goal once a week? You're going to find
Yeah,
a
right.
dupe
I'm
the
gonna
deuce?
come up with something. That's a good idea.
I may try that on you a couple times, see how that
gosh.
feels.
What was your win percentage? I
have no idea.
Yeah, you know exactly what it
I
was.
do not.
There's a post-it note. Speaking of Quartz Hill, Moore Park leads Quartz Hill 20-0 after 3. Santa Barbara 57. Speaking of Santa Barbara, Wainimi nothing. Royal 13, Buena 10 in the 4th. That's a good one as well. 2nd and 6. Pagano gives to Caldera, and he picks up 3-4 yards.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the guys that you can rely on for Oxnard, and they're going to – it was interesting. We sort of wondered how he's going to factor in with this new offense this year, but he's clearly still the biggest playmaker for this team. Pagano's had his moments, certainly, as Derry said, a couple passes have been errant, but we know Caldera's a guy they can probably rely on most of the season.
That is good for a first down. And again, there have been successful portions where the Jackets picked up a first down here and a first down there, completed a pass here, had a nice run there. But there just hasn't been continuity in the offensive attack.
Yeah, not efficiency either. For that matter, they might get 9 yards, and then there'll be a 3-yard loss, and then an incompletion. They need to be more consistent. You get 2nd and 1. You can't afford a lost yardage play after that. It's pretty evident. Stay ahead. Stay on schedule. 2nd and 5.
Well, I think part of it is that they've tried to keep things pretty simple, maybe page 3 or 4 of the offensive playbook, and then add more incrementally as we go along, trying to stretch it to week 7 of the season, where they're ready for 6th View League and defending their title there.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that the offense right now at this moment, especially in the passing game, it's been short passes, nothing that's been too over the top. Eventually that will start to become part of the game plan, and it has to, because everyone knows Caldera is going to get some carries. They need to be afraid of the downfield passing game, and right now Westlake's clearly not afraid of that.
Well, I'm liking some of the things they're showing now, that where they're kind of throwing it out there, get some pretty good passes.
That brings the third quarter to a close as Westlake tacked on another score in that period, and we head to the fourth quarter of play. It is 31-3. The Westlake Warriors lead the Oxnard Yellow Jackets. As I said, Newbury Park leads 13-6. Their young quarterback, and you like this, Rising, his last name. He has 118 yards and a touchdown at the half, 41 yards rushing. We already gave you the Moore Park Quartz Hill score. I know Agora losing to St. Paul 26-7 at the half. Notre Dame, a couple solid scores for the Pac-5 as Notre Dame now leads Oaks Christian 28-14. We commented that last we heard Chaminade led St. Bonnie 20-10. Max Gilliam is leading the Thousand Oaks Lancers against the Ventura Cougars. It's now 27-13 Thousand Oaks. Max with a 22-yard touchdown run, although he's seen as more of a throwing quarterback.
Well, T.O. looks like it's going to be a really good team.
The T.O. Oaks Christian game can be an interesting one in early October. I believe it is. Speaking of schedules, Oxnard then, I mentioned Buena on the 18th. They meet West Ranch right here on the 25th. Then they go down to Crenshaw and take on the absolute burners that Crenshaw has. They open the 4-game league slate with back-to-back road games. That's tough. At Rio Mesa, at CI, and then home to Wainimi and Pacifica. Pagano rolling to his right. He'll run for the first down and more. Pagano hit hard as he gets inside the 40-yard line. First down for Oxnard.
That's one of our boys. That's Brandon Hall with the tackle. But that was easily the best rush all game that Pagano's had. He's a long strider. He looks good out there running in the open field.
Well, gotta learn how to
really
get out of
good
bounds.
ball fake with having Caldera run to the left, faked it and then ran to the right.
But like you said, Danny, he does have to learn, get out of bounds or slide at some point, because as a quarterback, you don't want to get your shots after a 30-yard gain, live to fight another day at that point.
And really, on that play, it was less evident as on second down and long over here on the last sequence before the end of the quarter, where he could have picked up the same yardage going out of bounds as he did running into 3 Westlake linebackers.
Yeah, and then they just called a personal foul afterwards, so tack on another 15, or I guess half the distance there. So that was a great play by Pagano, but yeah, eventually you're going to get knocked out on one of those ones and be out on the sideline, and that's not what you want from your starting quarterback.
Tell you what, a bunch of penalties against Westlake. Heaney will not be happy with that.
It's really an issue that they need to work on going into next week's game against Red Mountain. Here's Caldera, picks up a few.
Yeah, because one of these games, that's going to come back to hurt you, where a team's going to capitalize with touchdowns, with field goals, and they're going to get basically free points. And I believe that's, 3 now. Maybe even there probably should have been a 4th at one point. So Westlake does need to clean that up. And no doubt when you're up against one of your more challenging teams on the schedule, you can't afford to give a team 45 or 60 free yards.
Yeah, exactly one on the 2-yard line that should have been holding.
That's true, too.
You had to go back to that one, too, didn't you? Caldera picks up about 4 yards. They've just been silly penalties, too. You know, it has been a series of mental mistakes in terms of personal fouls and taunting, late hits.
Yeah,
that holding penalty, really just silly mistakes.
The holding penalty that ends up technically not being a penalty as they decline it. But, yeah,
Right.
Here's the thing, too, is how do you go about telling your team about this? You obviously look at game film and you'll be able to break it down. But if you win the game comfortably, do your players sort of just in a way laugh it off and say, we're fine, it won't happen again? When you lose a game like that, they'll listen. But right now, it might be harder to get on their case that way.
Well, it's easier to get – I've seen this from the good coaches. It's easier to get hard on a team when they win. When a team is losing, you want to kind of back off a little bit. I mean, you want to point out mistakes, but you don't want to be really – hard on them.
Yeah, and especially I guess that makes sense if you're high schoolers too. You're a bit more fragile than, if it's a pro team or a college team where you have that much more success and that much more playing ability. So that does make sense. But you hope that that's the case, because I don't want to see Westlake go to, as you mentioned, Rancho Santa Margarita and then lose a game based off of mental mistakes. If you want to lose, you hope that a team just outworks you and somehow beats you. You don't want to lose it by hitting a guy on the sideline or mouthing off after getting a third down stop like they did in the first 3 minutes of the game.
Right.
On 1st and 10 from the 14, a fumbled snap, Pagano ends up coming up with it. Normally in these games, this year again we'll be featuring, by the way, the VCSPreps post-game extra with complete highlights of everything that happened in tonight's game, as well as post-game analysis from the three of us and a key interview. It's normally with the VCSPreps Player of the Week as part of this game, but as long as Westlake holds on here, I think we're going to want to talk to Coach Henney and get his thoughts. Nice run and catch from number 86, Blake Kilgore, as he looks like a tall, lanky target that is perfect for Pagano to find, as he did there in the flat, and brings up 1st and goal.
Yeah, Big 86 is a good weapon to have. We saw their opening play they went to him. That time it was pretty much the same play, just opposite side of the field. That would be nice. If you can get your tight end to be a reliable weapon game in and game out, that's a good thing to have.
I think they've tried to go to him about 4 or 5 times this game, a couple of them behind him.
Inside of the 1-yard line, the clock inside of 9 minutes. And now Oxnard on the brink of scoring their first touchdown of the season. Handoff, Caldera, he's in. Touchdown, Yellow Jackets. Oxnard with 6 points for the first time under John Mack. A solid drive from Pagano and company. Nice balance as Caldera takes it in for the score, and it's 31-9.
And they needed that. It's finally kind of a relief for this crowd to get your first touchdown of the season. And Caldera's the smart money guy on that play. You give it to your best player. And that was just a well-done possession, obviously aided by the 15-yard penalty. There's no doubt that helps. But
Pagano had that really good run for 22 yards.
Yeah, Pagano looked very good on that drive. That was his most efficient drive.
Sure.
And we talked about heading into the third quarter, can they get a drive where they get 5 or 6 or 7 good plays? This was finally the first one where there wasn't many negative plays. They moved the sticks and ultimately got rewarded because of the touchdown.
Score will hold it 31-9. There's a penalty flag down. And I will say this, I don't think, actually it's against Westlake, so I think they
It's
may
against
be
Westlake,
going for 2.
so they're going for 2, I would think. Yeah, it's against Westlake.
So Oxnard will go for 2, 31-9 at the moment. Westlake lined up to go for 2, remember, on the opening sequence. There was a penalty against Westlake on that attempt. They ended up kicking the field goal. Big boy making his way out late. Eddie Rivera hustling into the huddle. And Oxnard will try to tack on 2 from the 1. Caldera is the lone back. 2 wide receivers to the near side, including James Marlborough. And it looks like he's in. Yes, he is. 31-11. Really strong crowd. The home stands probably 75-80% full, especially for a game that is being played before school has started in the Oxnard Union High School District. And you have to say, Coach Mack has brought a new buzz to this program, all puns intended. And let's not forget, Mark Beckham did so much for this program over the years and was such a tremendous coach and a leader, and it was my pleasure to cover him and interact with him and work with him over the years.
You know, he turned this program around. I mean, the 1990s weren't the best at Oxnard. I mean, they had a couple really good seasons, but they had some problems off the field, and Beckham kind of came in here and really changed the culture of Oxnard football. And there was a couple of years where he kind of brought up like an all-sophomore team all 3 years, did that twice, rebuilt his team, and stuck to what he liked to do, which is run the ball, and they won a bunch of league championships.
Jasmine waiting for space to break. Nothing does. Westlake will start just outside the 20. Still in the game, Derry. Just want to make sure.
Well, they're still in the game because it's still so many more minutes left.
20-point game, yeah.
They're still in the game till the final clock goes off. Come on, Danny.
Well, and it would be nice for them if they can force a turnover here and really build something quickly and try to get some quick points. Because even though it's a 20-point game, if Westlake goes 4 minutes here and they don't score, that's still killing so much off of what Oxnard can do. If you can get a 3 and out or you can get a quick turnover and put up 7 points pretty quickly, then there's some possibility that you're a stop away from making things happen.
Oh, there's a fumble.
Ball on the ground, and it's picked up by Oxnard. 31-11 at this point, and Oxnard will take over on the 37-yard line. When you made that comment, I was kind of rolling my eyes thinking, okay, sure, but the Yellow Jackets are right back in this thing, and let's see if they can put together another touchdown drive.
Yeah, that's halfway of what I just said. Prophesize, you say, get the turnover, get the quick points. You got the quick turnover. Now you need to capitalize. Short field, ball in the 38. Get 7 here, maybe 7 minutes left in the game. All of a sudden you're down 13. That's a legitimate game.
Thought that big 86.
86, Kilgore not on the field. Instead they give to Caldera, and there's no gain for Caldera. There's Trimble again. What's the carry count for Caldera, Derry? Couple scores here, by the way. Lancers lead 34-13 over Ventura. We're getting Twitter updates on the St. Bonaventure game from the head coach's wife, which I think is awesome, Kathy Guerra, as a Seraph score. And Chaminade leads 20-17. Dos Pueblos on top of Pacifica 24-7.
20 carries.
Tipped up in the air and not tipped toward a defender in particular. Camarillo starting to pull away, by the way, 30-17 in the third quarter over Rio Mesa.
Now here it's 3rd and 10. You don't have to pass the ball here. You can set up maybe 5 or 6 yards, do a 4th and medium, because, again, you're in plus territory, you're down 20. The worst thing you want to do here drop back the pass, take a sack, and then face a 4th and 16. I wouldn't be opposed to running the ball here, setting up a 4th and manageable, and then giving your quarterback something to work with on 4th down.
Coach Mack has to be thinking about getting Pagano out of the pocket as well, whether it's with a play fake or otherwise. And that's exactly what he's doing. It's a designed run as he'll try to cut it back to the 40.
Oh, good play.
Dives forward for a few yards. It certainly excited the crowd. He only picks up 3. 4th down and 7 now with 7 minutes and 20 seconds remaining.
And David Cheesy was in hot pursuit, nearly tracked him down, and then Pagano does a spin move, gets out of it, still gets hit pretty hard, but he picks up 3. That could have been a 3-4 yard loss. Heck of a play by Pagano using his legs and finding a way to get away from Cheesy.
I just wonder why you would have a quarterback roll to his left. You want him to roll to the right so he could throw the ball.
Yeah, give that pass around option. I agree with you.
He had no option there because he has no chance to kind of get his arm back and throw.
Pagano on 4th down, and it's just through the fingertips of James Marlborough. That kind of timing, that kind of catch that has to be made is going to be made in weeks 5 and 6. It's just, this is a week 0 game. This is a brand new offense for these players, and I think Marlborough picked his head up just a little bit too late.
Yeah, it seems like it, and that's probably maybe 5 or 6 times, Derry, now that we've seen that. The timing routes just haven't quite been there.
Well, it's all about you're changing a attitude of toward the passing game is, hey, we can be successful in it. Here's what you need to do. You need to make that catch.
So 31-11 still at this point.
And that was a heck of a sack that time. Great movement up front, getting in the middle there and making the play. Big number 76, Andre Bellamy. And he's the type of guy, he gets a hold of you, you're not getting away. So big-time play by Bellamy to make something happen and sets up now a 2nd and long.
You know, they've had like about 4 sacks with the quarterback. They've done a pretty good job.
Yeah, Vasio Pena's had 2 alone. And once again, another good run stop. And I understand Westlake, part of their offense at this point is run the football, just get to win at this point. You don't want to do something stupid and give up a pick 6, but that's back-to-back good plays by this front 4. And Oxnard, we mentioned at halftime, will they continue this fight? Will they be determined? They've shown some good fight here in the 4th quarter for sure.
I really like the way they've played the second half. It's a lot different than what we saw the second quarter. I mean, it's been a re-energized team.
Theo Howard, and that should be good for a 1st down.
Yeah, I think he needed about 9, picked up maybe 10.5. And that was one. We talked about the timing routes for Oxnard not working well. Westlake, their timing routes are working pretty good when you're throwing it to Theo Howard. Over the middle, there's no doubt he's going to make that catch and move the chains. And he's a weapon, and that's what Westlake can rely on. Of course, though, 5 minutes left in this game. It's granted it's a 20-point lead, but all the starters are still in.
And why?
Well, it's just a 20-point game. Yeah, no, I'm with you, Derry, and why. You need to develop. It's less about keeping the players in the game and risking injury and about developing more confidence in your second unit and other contributors.
Yeah, if you can develop depth, that also adds the factor of when there's an injury, because we know injuries happen, that now you can rely on the backups. You can say, okay, our backup running back is somebody we can believe in. Our backup linemen are people we can believe in. You can get all your practice reps you want, but there's no doubt about it. When you're on the field in front of the Friday night lights, that's really when you can shine and prove to your teammates and your coaches that you're capable of contributing.
And another thing, it makes that kid a little bit better in practice the next week. Hey, the coaches have confidence in me. Hey, I'm going to work a little bit harder.
Yeah, and maybe I got 4 carries on Friday. I'm going to work really hard. Maybe next game I'll get 5 or 6, and you can build something to that.
Right.
And I think that confidence can permeate through the entire team, really. It becomes less about that individual player and just about a more confident, level team. And here's Chase Jasmine. He's another level, isn't he, in terms of running backs in Ventura County as he gets down to the 20-yard line.
Yeah, he's looking a little bit like another former Ventura County running back that's on the sidelines right now with those cuts. Lorenzo Booker down on the sideline, on the Oxnard sideline. And, man, I tell you what, on that play, Chase Jasmine, a little wiggle, nice finish. He's shown the moves tonight that he could be one of the best running backs here, of course, in Ventura County, but maybe in all of Southern California. He's been a weapon, whether it's passing, receiving, rushing, you name it. He's been out there, and he's been a contributor, second play of the game all the way up until now.
Yeah, he's proven that he's just not a straightaway guy. He can knock guys down. He can make the turns.
Tries to move to the edge there, and he's eventually taken down. Still, though, a 8-yard gain. Really demonstrating the full package in his senior season. And when you looked at Chase Jasmine in so many games last year, he really was limited in his carries for the most part. He had under 20 carries in nearly every game. Just 10 versus Canyon, 16 Red Mountain, 9 versus Long Beach Poly, 16 versus Newbury Park, albeit for 201 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is now this offensive line is starting to wear down this defensive front. Even though there's been moments, and we saw, like, a couple guys, Vasio Pena with 2 sacks, Bellamy's been in the backfield. They've been on the field so much this entire game that they're just worn out. There's no doubt about it.
3 minutes to play. Moore Park has shut out Quartz Hill, and that's where Oxnard is headed next week, as Quartz Hill will be looking to score for the first time this season when they take on Oxnard. Grace Brethren, 52-0. They lead Fillmore. Should be a good year for Grace. Saugus leading Simi Valley 34-21. Santa Paula 44-7 over Indian Springs. Camarillo should pull away for the most part from Rio Mesa 37-17. How about this? Michael Pittman with a 32-yard touchdown catch from Matt Corral as Howard goes up for it and can't bring it down. Nice coverage.
Yeah, very
on
good
the far
coverage.
Side.
Very good coverage there, and that would have been tough for Howard to haul in no matter, even if the coverage wasn't there. The throw was towards the back pylon. Good effort, and I understand the throw there. You pretty much say either my guy's coming down with it or nobody is, and that's a safe throw on third down, but still a pretty good effort by Howard to nearly pull it in.
Oaks Christian has come all the way back, as I was saying. Michael Pittman with a 32-yard touchdown catch. Oaks 28, Notre Dame 28. That's a good one. 4th and 6 for the Warriors. They'll go for it as we wind down what has been a fun game. Again, check out VCSPreps.com over the weekend for highlights and post-game analysis and the VCS Preps post-game extra from this one. Bunker drops back. It's over the head of Howard, and Oxnard will take over on downs.
You know what's interesting? And Derry, we mentioned, I think earlier this quarter, can there be more playmakers? You saw on those last 2 plays, Bunker had tunnel vision. He was strictly going. There was no chance Howard wasn't going to be the receiver there. They had him bracketed, double coverage. You need to go away from him and go somewhere else.
And you're up 20. Why not go for somebody else?
Exactly. So that's the one thing that they do need to work on. There's been moments of Corso and Ho and Barclay, but overall, you can't have tunnel vision and just completely rely on Howard, because that time Oxnard basically dared them to throw anywhere else, and they didn't.
It's going to be an issue for Westlake as the season progresses, potentially even next week. Pagano, throw downfield. First time we've seen him throw downfield, and the wide receiver was turned defensive back. James Marlborough had to knock that one away. Incomplete. It's the first time Pagano's even had a chance to throw downfield. He had his man open, just a little bit behind him.
Yeah, he put too much air under the ball that allowed the defensive back to get there and make the play. But at this point, I understand it. Now you maybe want to test the defense deep. Of course, it's not going to really matter in the final outcome of things on the grand scheme of a win or loss. But we need to see more of that from this offense, because you can dink and dunk, you can rely on the running game, but ultimately if the secondary is pushed up close to the line and they're basically run support because they don't believe you can pass deep, that's going to be an issue.
Pagano going deep again.
He's got a good arm.
Why not? And that is caught by the Oxnard player.
And he was interfered on, too.
Penalty flagged, unless it's the other way around.
I don't think so. It looked like the defensive back bumped him towards the end. That is a heck of a throw down the sideline and a great catch.
Alex Sardi with the grab, the junior wide receiver and defensive back. And it's a first down for Oxnard. It's nice to see Pagano stretch the field a bit.
Sardi's fast. We saw his return earlier this game to start the third quarter. He really can pick up a lot of momentum and take it down the sideline. And that time, he just ripped the ball away from the DB who interfered with him. And now we're seeing it. You mentioned that's a heck of an arm. I liked what Pagano did there.
He threw it a little bit. He got a little bit more air under it. Previous one was more of a kind of a line drive.
Another personal foul penalty, actually. It looked like a clear cut pass interference. I completely agreed with you, Kent. Ultimately, it is a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, again, from the Warriors.
So maybe he said something afterwards. Who knows? I mean, that's one of those things where, yeah, I think the one thing Westlake maybe needs to work on, they can look at all the film they want. They need to tell their players, be quiet after the play. Whether you make a good play or a bad play, don't say anything because these officials are going to penalize you, and that's going to cost you big time.
Just got to go about your business, really. Here's Pagano, flushed, and he's sacked. Just about a yard loss. A couple of late scores in games around the area. Royal on a Shimbato sneak with 1:55 left. They've snatched the lead away from Buena on the road. And how do you like this? CIF finalists a year ago, Newbury Park is losing to a city section team. Birmingham leads the Panthers 14-13 in the fourth quarter.
Well, after losing a lot of talent, it's pretty good for Newbury Park. Says a lot for their program.
Caldera close to a first down. We're close to the conclusion of this game. We'll get a couple final thoughts from these guys, but as we said, we'll shoot our post-game extra and have that posted for you over the weekend. Oxnard would love to put one more on the board here as the clock will stop after a first down. 49.4 seconds remaining.
Yeah, and for Oxnard, you'd like to close here with a touchdown, at least be able to build on something here towards the end. And frankly, it'd be a fairly productive fourth quarter to end with 2 touchdowns. So hopefully for Pagano and the offense, they can find a way to punch one in here in the final minute.
Flag.
Guys, if you want to sum up some of your thoughts on this game before we really close things out.
I think overall, I like what I saw out of the Westlake quarterback situation. I mentioned Malik Henry last year. He's gone. Now it's Grant Bunker. He's been pretty effective tonight. I also think just the play calling in general has been good. They never put Bunker in bad position. It was a lot of high caliber, high efficient type of passes, and you can live with that. And then for Oxnard overall, I think that they closed well. They've shown the ability. Pagano has had his moments, and so there's still something to build on, even though you're going to fall short.
There's a lot to build on here, and it was an interview that we were looking forward to doing. We're joined by the principal here at Oxnard High School, Dr. Eric Riegert, and it's you guys are off to quite a start, aren't you? Obviously not what you wanted to see on the scoreboard, but at the same time, it's been a great atmosphere and special stuff so far.
Yeah, it's been like almost a college atmosphere, and I think that's what we wanted when we brought Coach Mack in, was to make football an event. Yet a lot of our people in the stands tonight are community members, not just students. So I think you're starting to see Oxnard alumni come back to Oxnard. And there is a touchdown
There
by
you
Oxnard.
go. How do you like that? Blake Kilgore, he's really emerged. And I mean, you look at the scoreboard, it's 31-17.
Well, you see a lot of heart. You see the coaches coaching. I haven't heard one negative comment from a coach tonight. I've seen all coaching. We've got technology on the sidelines, which is something that you want to see in a program that's a 21st century program. Again, the kids are into the game. The coaches are positive. Everybody's having a good time, and the scoreboard doesn't look too bad against the number 1 team in the county.
Yeah, you have to be pleased with how things have unfolded this evening. And again, how has your relationship been with Coach Mack? How have you two communicated, and how has he helped you realize your vision and you helped with his vision?
We've known each other for about 25 years, and we were both football coaches. I was at Paraclete, he was at St. Bonnie. And so over the time we've maintained connections, and I think his vision is my vision, that we want to make football an event. We want to make sure that the young men that play it and the kids in the stands and cheerleaders that watch the games learn something from it. I think tonight was a gut check, especially when we were down 31-8. I think, and
3.
now we've kind of started doing some things against a very good team. So Westlake's going to have a great year. I think we're going to have a great year, and I'm excited for the season, rest of the season. This is fun.
I think we all are. Sky's the limit, huh?
I think so.
Dr. Eric Rieger, we'll see you a little bit later in the year. Thanks so much for joining us, the principal at Oxnard High School. Great to have him in the booth with us here for a minute.
Yeah, and I think you have to agree with him. You close strong in the fourth quarter. You also send the message that this is the team we know. I mean, as you said, they were ranked number 1 in the county, the Westlake Warriors, and you're challenging them. You're putting the heat on them here in the fourth quarter. You've had your moments, forced a turnover, had 2 touchdowns. There's been things you can build on for sure. And the one guy that I think Derry and I both like a lot after tonight, Blake Kilgore, he now at least is probably your best pass option. And so you have your running back in Caldera. You now seemingly found some receiver to go to in Kilgore. So Pagano, if he can build on that, they might have something going forward.
And I think there's a couple other receivers. A guy who made a really good catch on the long pass on the same drive. And they've had a couple other guys who had their hands on the ball, but they just couldn't quite make the catch.
I don't think they're used to it being thrown their way. So.
Well, I mean, they've had a summer of going through passing terms and everything where they've had to have a little bit of confidence. A little bit different when they're kind of doing a lot of hitting and putting some pressure on you. But, hey, I kind of like a lot of the things that Oxnard is doing. They have a chance to kind of take this thing to a different level.
30 seconds left. Go ahead.
You know, every coach says the most improvements from the first game to the second. And I think we'll see a different Oxnard team next week.
Yeah, especially after what's happened in this final quarter here. They have their receiving target. They have a little rhythm. And Oxnard's got a lot to feel positive about going into game 2.
And the one thing I like is their special teams, their kick returners are legitimate. You have Weiss and Sardi. They've made plays. So if you can find your defense and start to force turnovers, and then if your offense can move the ball with efficiency like they have these final 2 possessions, then all of a sudden that special teams could become a weapon. Your defense isn't going to be on the field nearly as much in weeks 2, week 3, week 4 as hopefully the way they were today. So there is something to build off of. Efficient offense, good sound defense, and good special teams. You'll be in almost every game.
Yeah.
Good stuff tonight as Westlake jumps out to a 31-3 lead. But I think both teams and sets of fans leave pretty pleased tonight. The final score, 31-17. Gentlemen, I'll give you 15 seconds. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts are Westlake gets off to the first win, which is what they needed. Oxnard, I think there is something to build off of, which is nice for them. Specifically, you need to find out more about your quarterback, but certainly far from a bad start. He was pretty effective. Overall, though, this is a Westlake team. We know they have talent, but the key will be, can they have those offensive playmakers to step up outside of Jasmine and Howard? Because they need those guys if they want to be a real threat 2-3 months from now.
Deuce, Mac at Oxnard, Henny at Westlake, your initial thoughts?
I think it was kind of, we saw Westlake kind of much where we expected. You know, Jasmine was the dominant guy, which he has in so many games last year for Westlake. I think the quarterback for Westlake had some really good plays, but then he was sacked about 3 or 4 times and struggled at times, but I think he's going to be good. Oxnard are really they played a really good second half. The second half is something they can really build on. They played Westlake really well.
An exciting game throughout. 48 minutes to open the season. Westlake 1-0. Oxnard opens in defeat, but smiles as the players come over to the near side crowd. One of the bigger crowds they've seen for a non-Pacifica game over the years. The Yellow Jackets, they're buzzing. 31-17, Westlake winners over Oxnard. A great maiden voyage here on the VCSPreps game of the week. Big thanks to our producer, Anthony Placencia, for all he does. The entire team back at the mothership. Matthew Saint and John Catalini, of course, who is the sports editor of the Ventura County Star. For my broadcast partners tonight, Derry Eads and Kent Brown, my name is Danny Page. We will see you out in Simi next week. Buena and Simi Valley on the VCSPreps game of the week, it looks like. Thanks so much, and good night.